Yeah, so it's just been, following the bearish nature of EU recently, which we all know has, well, I mean, when was the last time we saw an actual pullback, like a decent pullback? Well, this was a pretty decent pullback, but yeah, the last time we saw any real bullish intent was over here back in August, right? End of August to beginning of September. So yeah, it's just been like, and here, right, I know everyone, like when we were looking at this, right, everyone's like, and even I was like, okay, well, daily's not closed below here, right? So instantly we start thinking, oh, bigger daily pullback, right? Because obviously we don't have a swing high here at present, right? But we've got to remember that this only becomes weak when this goes, right? And if we actually look down on like the time frames we properly work with structure on, right, this is the 4-hour lower high, right? So it's completely correctly formed. And I mean, this is actually just a great example of when to be aware of the fact that, like, I remember saying earlier in the week, I remember saying, yeah, earlier in the week that I couldn't find anything clean in here, right, on 15M, which, to be fair, I couldn't. So it was pretty dumb of me looking at anything aside from that. Really, like, if it's the only clean thing we've got to work with, it should be the only thing that we trade towards, right? And then obviously after NFP, we had a pretty significant break here, right, of 15M structure. Right, and then we have a bullish break of structure here, so we can definitely say, and this even to a degree is like 4H charge as well, right? So we can say we've got some form of like bullish intent at that point, right? Very definitely also, I suppose. Yeah, so we can definitely say we've got some form of bullish intent, right? We can also, just have a quick look at the relevant levels and just go, okay, well, which one's it? We can also say, okay, well, we've just traded into premium, but we have like significant demand down at a discount. So yeah, I completely missed this personally. I thought it would run these lows, but yeah, it's the whole thing of react, don't predict, right? But yeah, I saw a great markup. On Monday morning, someone, I think it might have been Skeptic, posted a really nice markup with that POI and looking at like that as the inducement built for it, which was spot on, like literally spot on, right? And yeah, because we've got, like, we can classify this definitely as another break of structure, right? So at this point, it's just about following the higher lows, right? So higher low, until we start seeing these higher lows get disrespected, then we're probably not going to go up. We're probably not going to go down, right? Because we're seeing a structure, right? So we see this, yeah, and this was another thing I missed on thinking, right? We've created a new demand range. Right, we've got, well, this whole larger buy to sell, really, we've got like this one, which is what we'd be looking at, right, at the last sell to buy before the high goes, and we can refine that down to that, right? It's an engulfed candle that makes complete sense. We don't build any liquidity as such for it, but yeah, structure always takes precedent, right? And then yeah, price continues off on its merry way, gives us another break over here. All right, and this is the difference between, like, the whole ranges thing and supply and demand and structure thing, right? Is the fact that occasionally it will give us slightly earlier information. Like we can take this trade here rather than waiting for the break of structure, but then we can also take a trade from, you know, whatever broke structure, which is a bit of a weird one. Because I would be saying that this was the origin of the break of structure because we traded above that straight away. That's been tested. So really, I'd be looking at what breaks this high, which would be something in here. Right, like you call that an iBoss, something like that. Yeah, something like that. So we can look like within here. Let's see time frames. What do we see? Well, we've got that. Obviously, I think that aligns with. I think that aligns with. We've also got the extreme. That looks quite nice to be fair. So yeah, that aligns with those wicks. We've also got that, which is the run, so that makes sense. So yeah, I'd be looking like in both of those areas there. Yeah, price moves. Right, and you can just see like anytime, this is what I mean about entries and stuff, right? Anytime there's a good entry, it's the same shit, right? Okay, here we see a chotch, right? We come in, we completely disregard this area, like we just get no price action away from it. You know, especially if we've refined it to 1M and nothing happens, right? This taps into this, which I guess would be 2M, something like that. Where is it? It's over here. 2M, yeah. Taps to 2M, which we could use as our refined level there. Right, and then it's just literally waiting for that sequence of events. So actually hit it. Yeah, literally to the fucking tip. I love that shit. But yeah, then that hits that, right? And then we just, like, whatever time frame you want to use, you just wait, right? You say, okay, well, what have we done? Well, we've had, have we had that sequence of events, right? So we've clearly had a liquidation there, right? We've clearly had a mitigation and a V-shaped recovery, right? We've clearly had a change of character, but we get no real flip because the V-shaped recovery is so aggressive there, right? But what happens here? Well, here we react to this supply, right? And then we react to this high over here, right? So this, we could say, is our flip zone. And again, even if you wonder if you wanted to wait here, you could get on the mitigation here. But yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty happy at that point, just playing like, well, very definitely seconds from there. Looking at that and going, I mean, probably, well, you may have been able to get a little bit lower down here. Yeah, this thing, because you can see the flip hit, right? But you can also see you've got some form of valid extreme. So you just play a reaction to this, you get no reaction, your limit sits on that. Or your market execution, or you just wait for another chotch away from it, you get in here or something. But yeah, then it comes down, right? Does all the weird shit it needs to do. Jeez, that's a horrible bit of price action. What would you do here? Okay, so you've got a tap in there. Initially, yes, I repeat that. This is how, like, someone was asking me like how to backtest and shit like that. This is sort of how I'll backtest these days, right? If I see something I don't understand, I'll just go back over it in bar replay and sort of monitor it. But that's sort of more these days, right? Like before it was like, yeah, doing like things on like structure and shit like that. But yeah. Why not the higher in golf? Which higher in golf, mate? Where? Sorry. Can you draw on the screen, dude? That was like 4 minutes ago. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, okay. Why not this? Is this what you mean? This one here? Or this one here? Or what, this one here? That one. Well, if you look here, right? That's what I mean about you have to, right? We don't have a bearish candle, right? Yes, we have started by wicks. If we just take a very quick look at this, right? It's not that well priced, considering, right? Also, if we look at all of these candles, right, they all trade higher than one another, right? So we have no real sell there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we have wicks here, yeah, cool, but we have nothing else really, right? So, and we also get a little bit of a chotch to come back down there. But yeah, I wouldn't look at this. Like, it's just, this doesn't look correct. Do you know what I mean? Like, where would you prefer to trade from? Down here somewhere or in the middle of this? Do you know what I mean? Like, in a complex pullback as well, because we have to be aware that it's very much a complex pullback at that point in time, right? Because if we're looking at structure again, right, what we're expecting, and this is the whole multi-time frame structure, right? What we've had is this, this, this to this, this to this, this to this, this to this, to this, to this, to absolutely crushed, to lower high, to low low, right? So now what are we going to get? Well, now we're going to get a pullback on 15M, right? Following like this. And these pullbacks have a tendency to do fuckeries, right? Like this one this morning, right? Like it could be the start of a 15M pullback and it completely fucks you, right? And yeah, then, you know, once we get realignment, like this is what we're always looking for, right? Here, right here, this point here. As soon as this happens, take fucking every single short you can find that makes any form of sense, right? Because they will work, right? You're trading from a strong 4H lower high, right? You have 15M order flow and structure in your favor. Don't fuck off, Joe. Just don't be scared at that point in time, right? Because you see, like that's when you start seeing the expansion happen, right? And if you're not getting in, like essentially what we've seen here, right, is some form of accumulation, right, followed by a redistribution, right? Like, yeah, damn, that would have been a nice trade, wouldn't it? No. Wait, how did we get in that again? We were just going over that, weren't we? Sorry. Let's see on 5S what happens. We have no real flipper like anywhere here, right? This, yeah, like this doesn't react to anything, this doesn't react to anything. So we've had a change of character, but we've had no real flip. Yeah, so there we get a flip, but I don't, would I take that? Yeah, I'd potentially take this here, right? Because I would say we've had a charge, now we've had a flip. I've got liquidity to target, you know, hey ho, I take a hit on it, you know, like such as life. No, not always, no. It varies. Yeah, like here, I'd happily take this, right? Because I would say, okay, we've had another flip, like we've respected this level that gave us the charge, right? Normally the candles the candles we look at end up being runs on liquidity because of what they have to do to fulfill something, right? But yeah, it's not like I'll take an entry from, you know, if this made sense, I'd happily take an entry from that. And not that it does, but yeah. But yeah, I'd say, cool, we've hit this, you know, we've respected this, we've seen a run on liquidity, we've seen a V-shaped recovery, we've seen a chop and a flip here. So yeah, I'd take that, take a hit. Just be like, well, fuck you, EU. But yeah, like full transparency, that would be a trade that definitely fits my plan, you know. So yeah, I can't really see a reason I wouldn't take that. And then I'd just be like, okay, well, the level's still not dead. Right, what are we seeing down here? Yeah, now I'd be slightly worried that we're potentially going to see a run lower. Oh, would I take that? See, all of this price action here would start putting me off taking trades until I see something concrete, like another lower high, and then we potentially trade that. But yeah, I'd be thinking this isn't looking completely correct at this point in time. Like something's off about it. Okay, now we come down into there. Yeah, I probably would have hit this now. So we get chotch there, then we get the flip here. We had another flip in here, but I'd probably just hit that or something. Okay. See if it works. No. Oh, no. It can go.
Sam, would you be able to mark out the chotch that you said was there, because I can't see one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
This to this. Oh, hold on. This one here.
Oh, I see it now. I see it. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
This here to this here, right?
Yeah.
Like we have a flip within here, so we could, in theory, take this, but I'd still be a little bit like, just because of the way all this PA is forming, like mainly because this didn't get respected, right? I'd just be like, something's not right about this. Like I'd half be expecting this to get taken now, right? Because I like, this is a nice bit of price action here, right? Like price fully drives in, mitigates this specifically, which in theory is more valid than the extreme, because this is actually what leads to the break of structure, right? And charge, whatever you want to call it, right? And we get that beautiful V-shaped recovery, really like textbook flip there, followed by a change of character. And we even like generate little equal highs here that I'd be thinking, cool, they're going to get run, that's going to get run, that gets my risk off, then I don't mind, right? So here I'd just be like looking at this and going, okay, well, you know, we're getting all these like little internal chotches and stuff in here, right? But nothing's really making a bunch of sense. So let's wait for like a mitigation, right? So here, price comes in, gives us a mitigation, right, of this area here. So then I'd be like, cool, well, I'll take the next one, right, and get in there. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. I'm going to assume that's a yes. But yeah, that's just one way into the trade there. You could have just used the 1M level as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. In theory, it's valid. But yeah, but then, you know, all we're thinking is, okay, well, and you know, there's nice trades from down here as well. I know a few of the guys got in that, but yeah, then you're just thinking, okay, well, most likely, you know, well, with this trade here, you have to be aware that you're trading from premium, right? So really, you just target the next supply range, partials there, full TP there, maybe full TP there, one or the other. But yeah, because you're trading from premium now, and you're bearish, you can't assume this to run like really far, right? Cool. Then I think what happens in, nothing really happens in NY today, does it? It just sort of ranges around. But this is the other thing as well, right? When you start seeing stuff like this, it's like yesterday, right? Unless you're happy to trade range, which 9 times out of 10 I can't be asked because they take a lot of thought, right? Just be aware that once you start seeing price action like that, nothing getting taken and continued, then yeah, like price is likely going to be on a bit of fuckeries for a bit. Cool. So yeah, price runs, obviously taps into this 1H here. right? And again, what do we get here? Well, see, this is a funny one, right? Because we don't get a change of character, but we obviously see something come into the market, right? Because it shouldn't take up this long, right? If the market's going to continue, it would just continue on up from there. You know, like in an impulse, it never takes out a low until it's ready to pull back most of the time, right? Not always, but yeah, nothing's always, is it? So here, that's when I started looking for shorts in that, just going, all right, well, that's some form of supply, right? So we can take shorts in that to potentially run this, right? Yeah, we can definitely look for longs, like hedges from there at that point in time, right? We've got a couple of nice levels to extremes, really nice though.
That's definitely a trade that I would have taken, and then everybody would have said that's very risky.
Yeah. It is
the short one.
Yeah, but you've got to think now, right? Is like it's all about positioning in the market, right? We're at premium, like we're right at the top of the range, right? So if you see supply and you're in a bearish market, like this is where the whole alignment thing comes in as well, right? Is the fact that we are overall, right, in a bearish market. We're expecting this, right? So once we start getting up to these edge areas, right? Once we start getting up to these edge areas, right, and reacting somewhat aggressively around like session open, stuff like that, right? For me, that's worth the risk at that point in time, right? It is risky, yeah, like it's not the safest trade in the world, right? But neither is this really, because you're at premium, you know, like we need to make allowances, right? But it's like here we've got a valid POI, right? If we go and look at this, what's this done? This has flipped this, right? So, right, this is the one we were discussing about, like me saying this is a risky trade, right? Because if you look here, this PI doesn't do anything, right? This PI comes into imbalance over here, right? So there's no like transactional value there, right? Like nothing's happened there as such, right? It actually even misses the top of that little range there, which that would have been like the first place I really gave it any validation. If that had a hit that, I'd have said, oh, okay, I can kind of see what you're seeing there. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas here, the POI is valid, the pricing is valid, right? The liquidity at this point makes sense to short as well, because we've run this high, right? So after we've run all of this liquidity here, likely what we're going to need to do is target some form of liquidity, which is going to be, you know, there's no liquidity in this leg as such, apart from maybe down here, right? So from here, we can probably say, okay, that is going to run high. Or that's going to come down to the low, sorry, right? Here again, now if we're looking at like POIs within this leg, right, again, you're trading like here, this POI doesn't do anything to the left, doesn't run liquidity, doesn't really do much, to be honest, right? To a degree, neither does this one, but this one is better priced, right? So that one is, and it's like, yeah, the engulf buy sell, yeah, I personally, I know some people would call that a run on liquidity because it takes out like this high here or something, but I wouldn't class that as a run on liquidity, right? Hasn't really broken anything either, so it's not the best place to look, very definitely, right? But yeah. Like, sorry, I was just laughing at people chatting shit about Gorilla in the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also we get no inducement here, right? So if we're going to need a point of liquidity to move down further, there's our point of liquidity above that, right? And then we see price come in here to the extreme and react like aggressively, right? Like it pinged off of that, right? So longs at that point are very definitely valid until we come to somewhere and we get another sustained reaction, right? Because we don't really have a valid POI. That's why I didn't, like, I think a lot of people traded just from this, right? Where I didn't, I waited for more, right? I mean, as soon as this sort of shit happens here, right? Like price comes down, probably mitigates something on 2M there, and there is an entry in there. You can see there we've got a little change of character. Yeah, we don't really have no, we have a flip over here. Yeah, but yeah, until we start seeing some decent confirmations, right? You don't really want to be shorting against this because we're bullish. Yeah, we're at high prices, so that's why we can start assuming that that low will go. We can also start seeing, right, that this has generated some form of liquidity here to be run later on, right? And that, like, this is it again, right? Like essentially for every trade, you need liquidity to be taken out and liquidity to start, right? So like here on the 15M, this has no liquidity, likely going to be the liquidity, right? Then you see price, yeah, and then you start seeing it doing this whole like complex pullback and shit again, right? As soon as you start seeing price like start to be somewhat corrected like this as well, don't hold too many hopes of this taking out a high at that point in time, because normally if it's going to take out a high, it will just go and do it. Yeah, then we start seeing this. Okay, cool. Now, right, we see a change of character away from there, right? But again, for me personally, this wouldn't be enough to take this trade, right? Because the 15 MPOI isn't exactly high probability valid. It's broken no structure, all of that sort of stuff, right? You can see it looks quite nice on the one, right? Like it's taken out liquidity here, had a drop, all of that sort of stuff, right? And then we get this respected. So now if we see this get respected, then we can, like if we see this get respected and break another low, which it just does, right? Like literally wicks it, but it gives us now a lower high to trade from, right? So I was having this discussion with someone yesterday, I can't remember who, but I was having a discussion about, you know, how can we assume that a level of supply or demand will get taken out if we're not trading from a level of supply or demand, like opposing it, right? So here we've had that first level, but we've seen there's a small flip down here, right? There's nothing really pretty as yet, right? Here's a much nicer, cleaner flip, right? We can look at this level too, but again, this level is going to be valid because it breaks this over here, right? So we will potentially see the mitigation of that. Oh no, I had that as 2. Yeah, so we see the mitigation of that, right? And this is the whole thing again, like if you've got 2 candles, sometimes it is just worth going up and making them one, basically. So you've got this level here, essentially, right? And then as again, nice clean entry there, liquidated that, chop flip. Yeah, there you go. Like, so we get this liquidation, yeah, liquidates like these highs, this high into this, mitigation, chop, now flip a Rooney, and that. Right, so then yeah, that's trade. And again, you know, like this high didn't form the best, we do still have this unmitigated level above. I should have taken more partials on this, but yeah, like at this point in time, I was thinking, okay, well, this is going to need liquidity. And if we break this, we're structurally bearish. So I would expect to see a continued run on lows, not a fucking, whatever that was, 40 pip bounce off of that personally. But yeah, it's me. We will make errors. But yeah, then, right, the interesting bit about this, right, is I don't know whether any of you guys were thinking it, but I was thinking, okay, one way someone could interpret this is now, right, we've broken structure, right? We see the run on that high and this low failed to break, right? But what we have to remember is that this low has failed to break this high as well, because we haven't created, right? We've liquidated the highs into that, and then we bounce off that, creating more liquidity. We see a little shift in order flow up there, right? So once we see now this next shift in order flow happen here, right, likely price is never coming back, right? And then we run this, right? So we break structure again. So we've got two bearish 15M bosses. Honestly, at that point, price is not coming back to take out any highs. Like it might take out some liquidity, it might do something like that. But yeah, like you've got that full alignment, right? So basically, if we're looking at that as our 4H structure, right, what we've seen is, because this doesn't create a high, what we've seen basically is price come up on 15M, right, complete the bullish phase, right, take out the low and then form a lower high, right? That's what we've seen. Like you just sort of have to disregard that wick because that wick hasn't closed above. So these are your structural points, right? And that wick is a good thing because that's a run on liquidity into an area of supply, right? Which is how a strong high forms, right? Like we've seen this basically, right? So at that point, if you're getting in longs, like, and there are nice longs in here, there's really fucking nice longs in here. There's one from here, there was a like post CPI long from here, but just be aware that they're pullbacks. You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking good trades, like really good trades. Like this is, I think this did 1 to 20, I think this did like 1 to 40 or something like that. Nice one just after that wick. What, here you mean? Can you hear the crows? Yes, mate. Lucky you can't hear the sheeps, and you're lucky the puppy's sleeping. But like 6 candles extra. You're fucking extra, mate. Oh, here, yeah, like here, yeah, the bounce off of there, yeah, it's lovely, really nice. And then yeah, we've got the short here that we went through quite extensively. But yeah, both really super clean trades. Right, and they just make so much sense at this point, right? Cool, we've seen this, right? This area is unmitigated. You know, it's taken out some form of inside bar thing there, so it's valid, right? We can definitely trade away from that. We get like the one in price action there is just like, it's fucking perfect, literally. Right, run equal lows into this rejection, change of character, right? But no flip. As soon as we see that flip, price just moves, right? And it's the same here as soon as we see the same thing, right? And it's just waiting, being patient, and waiting for that sequence of events, right? So we see the flip, we see the church, right? Price comes back to retest that and just fucks off. See you later. Right? And then we've got this, right? And this is like the last couple of days is specifically why I always say don't trade against structure until you've got structure on your side, basically, right? But yeah, then we come into here, right? And even we still don't need to rush this, right? And sorry, there is a very nice long from here, right? We tap into that. All right, I know RSN took this little fucker. Oh, yeah. It's a fucking sick trade. Yeah, comes in, right? You see, and again, it's like when you see this aggression suddenly stop at a mitigation and reject, right? There's so many arguments for taking this long, right? Yeah, okay, it's aggressive. Yes, we haven't seen a chop. Yes, we haven't seen a flip, right? But that is clear intent to mitigate something to push back up. As soon as you see like this get taken out, right, you can say, okay, well, potentially we can see a run back into here, right? And then it's just about like letting price develop again, right? Like, okay, cool. Here we get a chotch, right? We get a tiny flip, but nothing really committed, right? We get no reaction to it anyway. So we can sort of look at the extreme for some confirmation, maybe. Well, no, it's not even coming, like it's taken out the highs here, right? We get no confirmation away from it anyway, right? Then price comes down, right? And we still, we don't need to rush, you know, like right now we need to look at this, right? And we need to go, okay, 15M has bullish order flow, right? Because here's our last supply range that got taken out here, right? Okay, well, sorry, yeah, supply range, right? Okay, here we have a demand range. Okay, the demand range has been taken out. What happens next? Well, order flows are aligned with structure. Most likely, we're going to see a lower high, and most likely that lower high is going to form pretty aggressively, right? So where are the levels in here? You know, we've got this, right? Doesn't really break anything, still valid to keep an eye on. And we've got this is beautifully formed, right? Like those little wiki things there are always nice. Right, price comes in, and you know, even if you just want to trade the reaction here, chotch, right, off you go to help. But it's that thing of just, depending on how you want to trade that, right? But it's that thing of just not rushing, right? Like the trade's going to be there, and it's going to continue to be there. It's not just going to suddenly disappear. Right. The only reason we ever miss trades is because we're trying to think between the lines. Right. If you just think, okay, this is what I need to see complete. Have I seen that complete or not? If no, then the trade was never yours to take in the first place. Doesn't matter anything else. Right. If yes, click the fucking button. Don't be a pussy. You know, like you don't make money in this game without losing money. It's not possible. Yeah, but yeah, and then off we go to hell, right? And then like at this point in time, honestly, like look at what's happening here, right? We are doing this, like we just come up from, like we formed a daily lower high, basically, right? This isn't stopping for a bit, right? Don't buy into this, whatever you do, until you see some form of like 15M chotch at least, right? Just don't buy into it, because it's a fool's fucking errand. All you'll do is get stung every single time, right? Like just look at how cleanly it follows 15M structure down, right? We break a low here, we break another low here, right? Even if we're like just following the ranges, right? That to that, right? There's a trade there, you know, that's a little bit late in the day, but yeah, whatever. You know, okay, this all forms in Asia, but we see this supply respected, right? We see this supply respected, but this was to mitigate, or just taps the bottom of that, but doesn't really tap deep into it. But yeah, then we see this supply respected, right? It was like I think on the thing I had like 3 options. I can't remember what they were, but yeah, like most of them had this going first, right? Because it's like here again, right? And here, like If you catch this, great, right? But be aware that you've got supply get out of the trade, right? If you catch this, great, but be aware that you've had no bullish order flow, get out of the trade, right? If you catch, here we have a change of character, right? If you catch this down here, cool, this can run this high, right? But most likely it's not running this high, right? Even here, like to a degree, right? Like we get in, right? Probably wouldn't, you know, take some partials there, like, because most likely everything's weak as shit still, right? Until we start seeing like fully committed price action to the upside, just don't like this, you know, like look at the difference in all of these moves and like this move here that causes a pullback, this move here that causes a pullback. Even to a degree, this move here, it's much larger, right? Much more impulsive than anything we see down here. Right. All right, this is a shit example, but yeah, like even here, right? Once this goes, we start getting that, or even here, like look at the aggression in the push. Right? Like you see intent in the market. Right? It's not just about saying, oh, okay, well, technically I've seen this and this guy. You start to see aggression, right? Like you need to monitor, you need to be able to read price, not just technically analyze it. Right. But yeah, does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, it does. Can I ask a really basic question?
Oh, far away.
Okay, so I've recently been figuring out that like sometimes or not, I'm visual. So when we speak about pullbacks, it's always when price moves in the opposite direction from the main trend.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, you wanted to talk about this, didn't you? Let's like for anyone who doesn't understand this, right? We are always focused on mainly on 2 time frames for our trends, right? 4H, which like 4H daily, 4H and above, right? But yeah, like we'll just keep it simple and we'll say 4H, right? 4H is our trend, right? That's our main trend, right? Aside from daily, but it's like here, right? So if we take this as our daily, right? Here, right? This is our daily structure, right? So if we define this as our trend, right? And then this is our structure within the trend, right? So here we start seeing some form of bullish intent when we see that taken, we see that bullish intent respected all the way up, right? Until, yeah, we get this little shift in order flow here, right? And then all of this goes, right? But then we'll draw this on, and we'll draw the 15M on afterwards as well. But yeah, this is our trend, right? So now we're saying we are bearish, right? Until we see the break of a 4H high, we are bearish, right? Then we see the break of a 4H high here, right? And then we see some nice bullish intent come into the market for a bit, right? Then we see bearishes again, right? We see like a little funny thing in there, another little funny thing in here, but this isn't structured. This is like order flow stuff, right? So then we see this, right? We see it complete that daily structure, right? And you see how they work in tandem, right? Here, like daily needs to pull back, 4H needs to go bullish to allow daily to pull back, but then daily, which is more powerful, will likely take over. And the same thing applies to 15M and 4H, right? Like here's great. Let's mark out the 4H structure quickly, right? So here's a great example of it, right? Here is our 4H low high, oh, our 4H break of structure, sorry. And here is our other 4H break of structure. Right, and this is what I mean about like really like if you're struggling, just go and take the structure apart. Like literally just focus on structure because it gives you so much clarity. Like ridiculous amounts. Right, so yeah, there we obviously know here what we got, but yeah, this is how we'd start to read it, right? Up here, if we'd be saying, okay, well, here is our 4H lower high, right? So what we're expecting is after the 4H break of structure, we expect a 15M bullish pullback of the bearish 4H, right? Sorry, that's actually Forex structure there to there. Right, but then do you see how the 15M does exactly the same shit? Right, 15M comes down here, starts giving us a little bit of bullish intent. Right, this realigns, but not from a good area. Right, this completes some form of, you know, mitigation over here, goes bullish, right, and then we start seeing some form of bearishness come back into the market, and the market just tanks, right? We see a lower high, market continues to tank and break structure, right? Then we start to the 15M pull back again, right? But it's all within this overall bigger picture play of the lower high, right? So now we start seeing a pullback, right? That sort of competes there, but again, like this, not from the best area. So it runs that high to use it as liquidity. And then, yeah, absolutely melt. Right. And I think imbalance was saying it, right? There's correlation between the size of the range and the size of the expansion, right? We call this like the expansion, right? If we see here, this range has been fucking massive. Right, that was a range from, well, yeah, depending on which range you really define it as, but we've seen some form of consolidation from the 12th of October until it gets broken on the 10th of November. So for nearly a month, right? $2 trillion a day times 20, roughly $40 trillion in that range. Like, whoever's in control of that range has got some serious fucking money behind them at the moment, right? Whoever won the battle in the spell of the month. So this is why now, until we really see bullish structure, right, there's no point in thinking that this is going to fucking end, right? Because this costs someone so much money, like so much money. Like they're not gonna, you know, they want profits from that. Right. But yeah, does that make sense about the sort of structure thing and how to see it aligned, right? So this, we can say we are seeing bullish M15 price action here, right? But that in no right gives us any form to call the 4H bullish, right? 4H is still bearish. Until we see a lower high get taken, 4H is bearish, right? Here, we can say 4H is bullish, right? But daily is still bearish. Right, so once we see this, like this was the whole clue, right? I think we were speaking about this a while ago, right? Someone was like, couldn't you see a run on this high? I was like, no, like this makes no sense to get run. Like, look at the fucking aggression away from that. That was the biggest candle we've had all year, like the biggest daily drop we've had all year. Right, somebody manufactured this, right? This whole range is then just stacking cells, stacking cells, stacking cells, stacking cells. Right, buy, fuck, absolutely everyone. Cool, they're all taken out. Let's tank it. Right, we have all the sell orders in the world. No one has any buy orders left because we have all the sell orders. Right, okay, cool. They managed to stop us here. Right, let's just keep stacking cells, right? Correction, correction, correction. Enough cells stacked, right? Okay, oh fuck, they've stopped us again. All right, let's really fucking mean it this time. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like basically what's happening there. Right, but you just see it all the time.
So what would make you feel like, what has to happen for you here to understand that there is some seriously funded move up happening in this sort of scenario?
Some big generation of liquidity, right? And a big break of structure, basically. Like I was saying, I think I was saying this morning, like, yeah, cool. We've had Chotch here, which is why I completely missed this, to be honest, this morning. Like this, essentially this 3-hour range, this 3-hour POI here, right? But you can see price just taps into it, right? And you see, like, it's just respecting anything bearish pretty much, disrespecting, right? So until we see something now, like, you know, this, like a drive down and then an impulsive move up, right, which we're not really seeing at the moment. Like this move here wasn't really that impulsive, right? It's very curved. It's very like they could be generating liquidity. So until we start seeing some form of impulsiveness, right, like, you know, like this, right? You see how they drop off and then move, right? Or like even here to a degree, right? We get a drop off, but we get this sharp recovery, right? Here as well, right? We get this drop off, we get a slower recovery, but it ends up breaking much more significant structure, supply, whatever you want to call it, than anything has over here. Like here, we broke reasonable supply, but this supply, the key difference about these two, right, is this broke this. Right, that's the supply that breaks that low there, right? What does this supply break? Anything significant? Not really, right? So that could more be liquidity for this mitigation to then continue lower, or we could come and fuck around in here, you know. In all honesty, generally speaking, after a drop like this, it's best to be very, very, very cautious with your trading, because mostly you will see price fuck around. Because everyone's like they're now balancing books, taking profits, all of this sort of stuff, right? There's no more real intent in the market. It's just people sorting their shit out now until they accumulate probably enough buy orders to force a pullback up to, you know, something like in here, right? Because now this is like our last big supply range. So if we're going to see this bearish nature continue, which looking at like, you know, the real big picture play, there's not much reason for it to stop until we get down to like here, potentially here, right? This is the first place we'll probably see a strong pullback, you know, or in the sort of areas we are now, these weekly wicks, you know, this whole range here, like all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, at the moment, like until we see this daily high go, again, just follow structure, you know. Yeah, we'll get longs in here at some point. We have to, right? Like the market will have to pull back, right, up to, you know, up here somewhere. Might run all of this liquidity into like the EQ of this. That looks like a reasonable idea at this point in time. May react to this, but yeah, we can monitor this, whatever. But yeah, like something like that again, right? Because that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing bearish price loop, right? Price comes out, breaks a high over here, right? We get this price is bearish, right? Yeah, I'd consider this a run on a high. Yeah, obviously doesn't get respected, but sometimes they don't. This isn't quite big enough for me to class as structure personally, but yeah, then we see this. What's the next likely thing to happen? You know, like always just ask yourself that from a bigger picture play, what's the next likely thing to happen? Are we likely to see this high get taken out? Not yet. Right, until we start seeing some form of, you know, like proper build up, this high is likely to stay intact, right?
Okay, and so when we see a build up, then we can believe that it might either like just go.
The thing is we should never assume that structure will change, right? Ever. Until it does, right? Then we can assume structure will change. Right? Just don't assume it, because we don't know when that's going to end. You know, like look at this whole fucking thing here, right? We could have spent the whole time thinking structure is going to change, and that is the course of what, 2 years, right? Thinking structure is going to change, structure is going to change, structure is going to change, structure is going to change. Never does, right? It's always bearish. right? So just don't assume that it's going to change until it does. Literally don't make assumptions like that about higher time frame stuff, because you don't know how big these, you know, what these vested interests, like, you know, over here, right? Like this drop. Oh, okay, we've broken structure. Yeah, like, okay, cool. We've seen some form of build up here. Maybe, oh, fuck. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just always that same thing. Just don't assume stuff. The market will show you what it wants to do. It has, this is how we view it. No, it doesn't, like we can monitor that stuff through, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, just don't assume stuff until stuff actually happens. Don't assume it's gonna happen, right? Like here this morning, right? Like, you know, within reason, like at this point, we can say that this high is weak, right? It's failed to create a low, but it still gets respected because everything's bearish. Right now we're tapping off. Not the extreme, yeah. Makes enough sort of sense, I suppose. Okay. But yeah. Like within reason, we should just never expect something to change until it does, right? Like even up here, I was guilty of expecting, right? Because we were respecting these little 15M levels in here, I was expecting these lows to get taken, right? Structurally, it's bullish. That's why I didn't take a long on this leg, right? Because I was expecting and I was on the wrong side, right? So it's just don't, until it does it, don't expect it, ever. It's a fool's errand, right? You just end up finding yourself, because you make assumptions, right? Where if you just looked at it logically and went, okay, well, this is what it's doing, so I should expect it to keep doing that. You know, that makes your life a lot easier, right?
Oh yeah, I think there is an interesting like philosophical question in terms of like what's the flow? How do we perfectly flow with it?
Well, you just look at it, look at it, and don't expect it to change, right? Like yeah. Say you're in a relationship, right? What's the biggest mistake you can do? Like expect the other person to change.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
And then you have a hard relationship if you expect them to change to meet your needs, right? Same with trading. Don't expect it to change. Just let it do what it wants to do and hop along for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Any other questions or anything?
Yes, I have another question. You took a trade on Tuesday at the like M15 sweep just before the big sweep happened.
Here? Is this Tuesday or here?
Wait, let me annotate it. I think you took a short right here in this wick.
Yeah, I did.
Can you review that, because I didn't understand?
I can't, because it's shit. It was a fucking stupid trade, and I shouldn't have taken it, mate. There you go. There's my.
Okay, yeah, it looked like a revenge trade.
Yeah, it was. I was pissed off that it took me out of those two shorts. To be honest, mate, that's why I shorted it twice at the high. I rarely get pissed off, but yeah, that pissed me off, mate. In all honesty, I was like, "Fuck you! You shouldn't align and then disalign. That doesn't make any sense."
Okay.
But yeah, that was basically, I was just like, all right, well, fuck it. If it's going to drop, it's going to go from here. Oh, look, I just got smashed. There's a fucking surprise. Like as soon as I got in the trade, I was like, that's not going to work. I know it's not going to work. Why am I in it? I should have just closed it. Like most of the time I get in a trade and I know within about 5-10 seconds whether it's actually going to work or not. Like whether it's going to get my risk off. So, and I'm normally right, like a good sort of 60-70% of the time I'm right. So I should just trust my gut and fucking close the trade if I think it's not going to work. But yeah, that was just dumb, mate. That was just like, yeah, I don't know. I do plenty of stupid shit, right? Like I'm no more perfect than anyone else. And I just fucking, I don't know, I'm a bit ruthless when it comes to seeing price action I like and getting involved. But yeah. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to review shit trades basically, mate, because it's not a good thing to do. It's why someone asked me to, like, if we can go over losses and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, if you lot would find it beneficial, then I don't mind doing it. But I personally think we should look at how to read the market correctly, not how to read the market incorrectly. But that's my view. Does anyone else want to share a chart? Does anyone have any sort of questions about a specific trade? Does anyone, you know, anything like that?
Sam?
Yes, yo,
Can you hear me? Yeah, I have a question which is not about chart or trading, it's more about like psychology wise. I'm just wondering, how long did it actually take to have that enlightenment? I mean, I'm guessing that you learned that by backtesting a lot, a few times and journaling, but I'm wondering how long did it take you to actually see consistency and building some confidence in your entries and stuff?
So I started trading this methodology when I joined Phantom, or just before I joined Phantom, but yeah, when I joined Phantom in the first second half of last year, like September, something like that. And initially started trading like just the core Phantom concepts as such, right? 4H POIs, trading reversals the whole time, all of that sort of stuff. Was not consistent with that at all. I don't think anyone ever is, personally. It's the most fucking spooky way to trade you can get. Like, just constantly trade 4H POIs against trend. But yeah, so that I still, because I've always been decent at risk management and money management, I still managed to make money through that period. But yeah, no real consistency. Then I started to look outside that methodology. I saw some stuff that NJAT were doing and thought, oh, that looks interesting. Looked into that. Never joined the community or anything, but sort of took bits and bobs from their Instagram and all of that sort of stuff. And still personally didn't find any consistency, you know, with what I don't know how much of their methodology I was actually fucking using, because I was never part of the community, but never really found any consistency with that. That was around October, November time. But the way of trading interested me, right? So then I started to develop my own sort of stuff around it coming into January, and then really started to find sort of consistency around late February, early, like between February and April, basically, that sort of time period. And since then, I mean, it's what I say to everyone, mate, I haven't changed my edge since January. So what's that, like 11 months now? You know, I've just been like, I've added shit and my understanding has grown and all of that sort of stuff, right? But it's still based around the same methodology, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's amazing, because in 9 months, yeah, because I've been looking to trade order flow, because I used to trade a smart money concept. I was quite consistent with that, but waiting 2 weeks for a setup is just a big headache for me. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, like, just the thing is, right, is find an edge that you're comfortable with, right? Have like base methodology around it, right? Like the main base of my methodology is mainly the 4H, is mainly structure, right? That's what I build most of my trading off, is structure, right? Everything else is sort of confluence to that, right? So yeah, like, find something that you really gel with and just execute that consistently, mate, and you will see such big improvements over a short period of time if you just stick to one thing, right? Like, the problem so many people have is trying to add this and that and the other into their trading when they don't really have a strong grasp of the foundations of their trading, right? Like, it's all Like, take when I was a chef, right? You can't be a good chef if you don't know how to use a knife, right? That simple. You know, like, get the basics right, then build on top of it with elaborate shit.
Yeah, yeah. But the issue in my case is I came with a lot of knowledge, like different strategy that I tried to and I mean, yeah, let's say unlearn what I did.
Like,
so it was quite good.
You've obviously got, and there are, like, this is the thing, right? When I first started, I studied Wyckoff, right? It's why I was, you know, you still hear me talk about it occasionally, right? I think when I was talking about this on Tuesday, I was like, yeah, like, here we've had UT, UTAD, you know, here we've got LPS, likely we'll see a drop off from that, right? Like, I still refer to it when I'm trying to read something, but it's all predominantly based on other stuff now, right? Like, there's always uses for all of the shit we've learned, but it's just getting it into a format that we can digest every day, you know?
Yeah, because I went through that Wyckoff things, but by the time you know everything, the
yeah, by the time
entry is down.
Get play out, mate, it takes fucking forever.
Yeah, and it's too much confirmation. You miss the point, which is just supply demand, and yeah, just okay, cool. That's thank you for the info.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any more? No?
Hey man, I got a question.
What's going on?
Just for flips without watches, how do you answer those?
Sorry, mate, you broke up a little bit there.
Just with entries without watches, with just the flip. You explained it on.
Normally, there's been a chotch somewhere before, right? Like, I don't really do that much anymore because it ends up getting me stung. But, like, where it might be. Has there been one today? Like, you mean like the failed reaction shit, right? Like, when did I, like, even over here, right? I took a trade from like here, right? Because this was like, as soon as I saw this high go, I was like, okay, well, there's a flip, but we'd already had a chotch there. Do you see what I mean? Like, you should, in theory, always have the completion of both.
Yep.
Right. It's honestly, it's the safest way to trade, because otherwise you end up fucking yourself over so much. You really do. Like, it's, you know, if you don't see both, then it's kind of pointless.
It would be invalid, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you haven't seen the completion of both events, then like well, of all three events really, the chotch, the flip, and the liquidation and mitigation first, right? Like here, like this trade, you could say, okay, right, cool. We've had a run on liquidity, right? Here we have our chotch, here we have our flip, right? Because we react to this, you know, this would be 2M or something, but we get a reaction, right? But the flip doesn't, like, we can still keep an eye on that, but yeah, likely at this point, it looked like you can just sort of see here the extreme is very valid for a start, right? It's the actual cause of the break of structure, right? So, but we've had the completion of all of the events, right? Liquidation, mitigation, I think this mitigates 5M, something like that. Yeah, flip, charge, off we go to the moon, although briefly. But yeah.
All right, thank you for that.
Works, man. Who else took a buy? Did you get in that, Damon? Motherfucker. No. Yeah, that's a ballsy trade, mate. That is a ballsy fucking trade. Oh, good trade, those who are in. Fair play for having the guts to do it. It's valid, like, it's definitely valid. But yeah, we'll see. I reckon it does. She doesn't look like she wants to make higher prices yet. No, it's just like. But this is what I mean, right? It's just about looking at all of that PA and just going, does that look like higher prices yet? To me, not yet. I don't know, maybe. Let's see. We'll see. It's like this low, but yeah, you see it all the time, like lows form like this, and then fucking 100 pip rallies away from it. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm done for the week as well, but yeah. What was the significance of the 15M? Okay, well, this is an interesting one, right? If we look at this, right, if we really start to break this down, right, look, here we've got our whole larger range, right? But then where do we see the demand kick in? All right, I'll tell you, you guys draw on where you see the demand actually really start to kick in there. Where's the first point? Like, where's the lowest that can go before it's fucked? Like, before the whole level tanked? Sorry, my puppy's making some weird puppy noises and doing puppy yoga, but yes, exactly. Right, this range here. Look. This is our last significant sell to buy that breaks the high, right? We have other stuff here, right? Yeah, we can trade from here, we can trade from here. But again, if we look at this, liquidity, all of that jazz, right? This POI has no real liquidity, right? This POI does. Still, we've had to change order flow to go back. I honestly think that will probably come down from here. That would be my guess at this point in time, that will come down from here, wipe out these lows. Maybe in New York we'll see like some form of V-shaped recovery, maybe early next week. But yeah, that's kind of what I'd be looking at the moment. But yeah, I can't be asked anymore this week. I had a good week, so I'm going to be done for today. But yeah, that's why that POI, right here we can see. Like here we could argue probably on a lower time frame. Yeah, you see here we see this supply, right? When we take out that low, right? So the market comes back up into the supply, which would be our last bearish candle, which we could go and find the engulfment on, right? Where does that fail from? Well, that fails from down here. Somewhere, right? So we could go and we could put down. What do we have? We've got that doji that gets traded through. Yeah, that would throw me about probably. Oh look, there we go. That's what comes up. Because look, we get that first tiny little break of structure there. What breaks that structure? That wick on a time frame will likely be some form of gold candle. Might not be, but yeah, normally it is. That's a dot. There you go. Fucking market loves a dot. But yeah, you can see here, I guess we put that no gaps candle shit on. Yeah, there you go. You can see the last sell before the buy. There's your engulfed. Sell to buy. Yeah. And then look, the market just pings off. It also runs liquidity. Yeah, it runs those equal lows, has equal lows above it. Then you go over here, you whack a, what's that, 0.2? Do you reckon? Maybe less? Yeah, 0.2 pip stop on. And you do 1 to 55. and then you laugh. Basically, but yeah, don't do that. Honestly, I once tried to take a stop. What's the smallest I used? Like 0.2, and I got fucking slipped hard on that. Don't do that shit. It's not fun. Yeah, cool. Makes sense, everyone.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, there we go. This is recorded, so I will get it uploaded. So yeah, no stress if you're watching this after. You didn't miss anything on the sources there. But yeah, cool, guys. Have a lovely Friday. Have a lovely weekend. Yeah, cool. Peace and love, guys. Take it easy. Yeah, I will upload.
That's one. Check, yeah.
Yeah, take it, guys. Peace. Bye, 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 bye.
See you Sunday.
Show.